always going to be an exciting show. If you are all my Floridians, happy Emancipation Day. For all of my Haitians, happy Haitian Heritage Month. Okay. All right. And for all my revolutionaries, I hope you paid homage to the Honorable Malcolm X due to his birthday being yesterday. We got Big Speaking. Hey, Big Speaking.
Hi.
Hey. We are expanding our platform reach. We are now available also on YouTube. If you liked our dialogue, if you want to support our work, you can now do so by donating to our Cashapp. Our handle is BlacPodcast, Black without the K, BLAC podcast, obviously. And as always, you can access all of this information and more by going to our website, www.blactrospective.com. Oh, and also, if you're not doing so already, don't forget to like, don't forget to share, don't forget to follow. Welcome to our show, Reparations and Liberations, the Uhuru movement and the fight for African freedom. We have a special guest today. I'm so excited. Jainabah Lumumba. She is the Southern Regional Representative for the African People's Socialist Party. So as I said, this is going to be exciting and an interactive episode. You guys already know. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat and give Jainabah the opportunity, and she's gonna wow you all anyways. Like, I don't even know what else to say. I don't even know what to say. She's gonna be amazing. I love your glasses.
Hey.
You look so cute. Hey,
Hi.
Hey girl, hey. How are you today?
Hey, girl. Hey, Uhuru, girl.
Yes, Uhuru.
Uhuru means freedom in Swahili. And it was made famous a long time ago during one of the Malcolm X whooping them bricks butt. So to this day, Uhuru.
All right. You already getting started.
Listen, I am so excited. Well, perfect. Welcome. It's a pleasure to virtually meet you. Likewise.
So at the beginning of these episodes, we always like to ask opening questions. This is more so for the audience to be thinking about this while we are going through the episode.
With that, we will start with, when you hear the word freedom, who do you believe it belongs to? And has it been historically denied? What does justice look like, not just for individuals, but for an entire nation and communities who've been exploited for centuries? If reparations are about repair, what would it take, not just financially, but structurally and spiritually, to truly repair the harm done to African people worldwide?
Thank you. So Jainabah, you started telling us about Swahili and freedom, Uhuru. I love that statement. Do you know why Swahili was chosen particularly?
It wasn't that the word was chosen per se, as opposed to it was a really monumental, historic rebellion, battle, revolutionary fight, and so the people who lived there spoke Swahili. When it was time for battle, they would get together and they would say, Uhuru, Uhuru, Uhuru. And so the Mau, absolutely incredible, courageous people, just like so many other African and indigenous people all over the world who just want to be free. And so, it's freedom. It says it all in one word, and I just love saying the word Uhuru. So we say it as a greeting, we say it in passing or like signing off too. So nice. I'll say that a lot.
I like that because even as you say it, I get pumped. Like, even before I knew what it meant, like, I get pumped. I'm like, yeah, fists automatically want to go up in the air.
So that's also why, in Star Trek, I grew up as my mom is a Trekkie. And Uhura is actually named after that word.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's a historic word.
I love that. I truly, truly do, because it just, like I said, it's a powerful word, and it's something that even before knowing what it means, at least that audience, you guys let me know. At least when I hear it, I'm just like, yeah, let's go. What are we doing now?
That's also how I feel. There is like, so there's such power in words, girl, right? That's how I feel and know what it means. For sure. Like, I can feel that from there.
It's reminiscent of the Haitian Revolution, because even though the captivators, the human traffickers, tried to separate everybody by tribe so that they couldn't be able to communicate, because they knew Vodou and they were able to use like the rhythm of their bodies and their chants that they learned through their spirituality, they were able to communicate. And that's something I feel like it just transcends. So I love it. So with that movement, was that what inspired the African People's Socialist Party? Like, is that where that kind of stems from?
Well, definitely, the word Uhuru was being used by lots of people. Again, like we said, even in Star Trek. I mean, it found its way in Gene Roddenberry's script. So the battle itself was already historic and laid the framework for a lot of organizations, revolutionary organizations, even afterwards, to start their own thing. The African People's Socialist Party was founded in 1972 and sort of found its way in formation after the founder, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, went through a series of, growing up as a man, as an African man in America. And so he started off participating in, local organizing with SNCC. We've heard lots about SNCC in terms of it being the predecessor towards the Black Panthers forming. So you had SNCC on the ground, I'm talking, Freedom Summer, Fannie Lou Hamer energy. And so the conditions led essentially to the formation of the African People's Socialist Party, because it recognized that there was no political party representing the core African working class people like there was when the UNIA was active, and there were 11 million African people around the world connected to that. And so with the Black Revolution of the 1960s, that was to totally undo that. And then here comes Chairman Omali Yeshitela as a young man. He's like, we're going to bring this back together, and we're going to form the African People's Socialist Party.
I have to tell y'all, to go to the Uhuru House and to be there live, there's nothing like it. Honestly, I will say this till the day I die. I always said before going to the Uhuru House that I was born at the wrong time. And then I found the Uhuru House and I was like, no, I was born at the right time. This is the time. I wanted my, Malcolm X moment. I wanted my Black Panthers moment, because I definitely felt like I was going to be right next to Afeni Shakur, okay, or Assata Shakur. I felt like I was that. So I am so happy that something like this exists, because I had no clue. It's not in history books. I didn't hear about the amazing Chairman Omali, and I'm not being biased here. When you meet this man, he is so charismatic. Like, whatever he's talking about, you're gonna eat it right up. Like, he is amazing, and it was an honor to witness that. With that being said, I'm glad that you brought up the political system, because you said there wasn't a political system that represented the poor, working class, the African people, but isn't that what the Democratic Party is supposed to represent, in a sense? Are we getting sticky?
That's that is what ruling class, Elon Musk, that's what all the ruling class would like all the Black people to funnel into one of their parties, whether it be Democratic or Republican. But what happens is that we lose our voice, because even within our communities, even within other indigenous communities, whether they be in the Asian communities or some of the Spanish-speaking communities, you'll have sellouts, those who try and aspire as hard as they can to be the petty bourgeoisie. And I'm not talking about people who genuinely want a good life. That's all of us. I'm talking about those sellouts who want a good life at the expense of the rest of us. And we see, you know, even in this day and age, Black women are the highest degree holders and all of these things, and yet it hasn't overturned the mode of production, which is what keeps us in this economic parasitic relationship. And it's stressing everybody out. It's to the point nobody's scared of the word socialism anymore. Everybody, you know, we are like, you know what, whatever capitalism, we don't need that parasitic sinners energy over here, okay? We all see the movies, Sinners, where the parasitic vampires are trying to prey on African people. And even despite the contradictions in that film, there were still things that, you know, they had to address because it's the truth. So the Democratic Party would be something that, you know, they would like Black people to join, but I'm finding more and more that we are realizing that we can be a self-determining people and that the African People's Socialist Party is the alternative. And in fact, we are the only alternative because we're the actual ones doing stuff on the ground. I'm talking radio stations, I'm talking basketball courts, I'm talking about housing, I'm talking about food, providing food, things like that real problems that we have to solve while we prepare to govern ourselves, because we can't rely on the Democrats or Republicans.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I was about to add that in there.
I mean, it's something we have to talk about because a lot of young Africans are seeing, and young indigenous people too, are seeing that self-determination is the way. They're tired of having to stress themselves out, their vocal cords when they're code switching. I'm guilty of the same thing, you know what I mean? It's like we get into this environment where we are, you know, we're, like Chairman says, we're not the subjects of history, we're treated as the objects of history, and so we have to conform, and it turns into a Cirque du Soleil contortion trying to get our hair to stay straight enough for work, or, you know, make sure we have perfect diction when we talk to where our throat is hurting at the end of the day, and then our girl calls us at 5:01 because, you know, as soon as the clock strikes,
take off
we can breathe, you know, and that's the kind of weight that a lot of, you know, some women might call the patriarchy and stuff, but we've elevated beyond this whole idea of the patriarchy, and we recognize that, you know, it's a colonial question, and you're starting to hear that word more and more and more, including reparations, including colonialism, including socialism, including communism, because people are looking for an alternative. Seriously. They're looking for us.
That's right.
On this call. We, us,
yes. What do you feel was the major downfall to push into that direction of why we are now looking for an alternative to how we govern ourselves?
I think that we've always wanted it. I felt like, I think that in terms of scientifically, we've had the biggest proof in Marcus Garvey's UNIA. People have their feelings about it, but the numbers don't lie. Millions of Black people were buying steamships. I mean, to the point where W.E.B. Du Bois was like going to the government, like, look, I hate this guy. Give me a steamship because, you know, but the steamship wasn't just like some dog and pony show. It was to basically connect us who are here. You know, he coined the term Africans for Africa at home and abroad. Basically, wherever we are, we can be connected. We can let our labor benefit each other. So like imagine if, you know, and instead of Hershey's dominating chocolate, like, we're actually known for the chocolate. Like, come on. And we know it's a sister who can do a way better recipe for chocolate than anything that those corporations ever came up with. But I digress. I think that the conditions really drove us to this situation, and then they would put, like, the Democrats, we could use this past
campaign as, with Kamala Harris as a great example. I mean, first, they put Obama and then they're like, okay, well, maybe this will keep them satisfied for a long time. But then the white people were mad, and they brought Trump, and then and so then they're like, all right, well, we'll we'll do Joe Biden because that's close to Obama. Like, they're in this desperate state to try to find a way. They got Meg Thee Stallion twerking on camera, anything to get us to not abandon our post because we're the labor source here, right? Anything to get us to buy into this because it is falling.
Oh my gosh.
And they're hoping that we're going to be reactionary. We're always going to have to rely on them, like when the shoe drops. But with the African People's Socialist Party, what a lot of people are seeing, especially in St. Louis, because the chairman's in St. Louis, the people are building such incredible institutions out there. But when those kids are playing basketball on that basketball court, that's completely red, black, and green. 3 colors which are completely vilified by not only the colonial media, but, just everybody. If you see, where's my flag at? Where you at, babe? If you see red, black, and green, people will be like, revolutionary. They will make fun of the stereotypes of a revolutionary. And for a lot of individuals, there are people who may have a good idea, but they just don't have a program. They don't have a 14-point program because they haven't studied it in the same way that chairman has. They just didn't take it all the way. And so the good thing is that we've got 60 years under our belts, and I'm not just saying this because I'm the chairman's granddaughter. I'm not just, but my father literally found him from the work he was doing, not because he was like reading some book or went to a seminar. Like, it was the present. So I think that they're digging their own grave. Obviously, we've caught on to all of those lies and stuff. They can't move in the same old way, and we're seeing some really petty and very weak fights to keep us convinced that this is the best humanity has ever gotten.
No, girl, you hit the nail on the head. There is so much, and me coming from a Haitian background, like, my dad, and I've said this before in the social justice spaces that I've been in, like, my dad was a devout Democrat. We were born and we had the Democratic spoon fed into our mouths, like, and I want to be embarrassed, but, like, I feel like this is the condition of our country. I want to be embarrassed, but my dad announced to me, oh my gosh, it was so bad. He announced to me that he went Republican. And it's like, it's the state of where we're at, right? Because I can't blame my father, right? I have to only look at some things and be like, Democrats, where did you go wrong? It starts with, you told our great-great-grandfather that you were for us, right? You were for us. And then you made all these promises to my great-great-grandfather. And then you made those same promises to my great-grandfather. And then you made the same promises to my father. And now you're making the same promises to me. No. I can't even say fool me once, fool me twice. Be for real. At this point, you all, where it failed wasn't even putting a black woman face to be the representative, because we love our black women, we want to support our black women, but it's about you supporting the black people. You can't just give us a mask. You really have to come to terms with what you really did wrong. It's like when McDonald's came out with the Goopy Goop, and it came out and they're like, we don't know why we're losing sales. And they're like, oh, it's just the branding. No, it's because you got Goopy Goop for your meat, okay? So, Democrats, take a lesson, or don't take the lesson from McDonald's. Like, do better, because we know that the Republicans are not for us, right? But it seems as if same bird, different side of the wing.
One thing that is interesting is that most black people used to be Republican, right? And so I think that, political parties aren't like some gender fluid sort of concept, right? And while you can look at China as an example. They only have one political party, but the people are involved in policy changes. Here, there's two primary political parties, and you cannot affect any policy. But we're supposed to be afraid of the communist China. And I'm not saying that China is a model example or what we're striving to be. I'm just making the example that there's more than one way to exist on this planet. And another thing that I think is important is the question of agency, right? So what happens if all Black people go to becoming a Republican? And I'll just say it like this. And my mom, we talked about this too. Lots of African people, especially men, are conservative. Not conservative in the capital C sense, but as there's a content creator who says in the lowercase c sense, and I would agree with that in terms of, like, look at African people in the South tend to be, you know, okay, look at the AME church, you know, conservative church, you know, and so there is a sense of conservatism, and I can see how Black people would end up going, especially in this political climate with the Democrats, into a Republican sense, but that also reflects this, you know, just this ping pong thing, and we talk about the definition of insanity, right? You're just going back and forth and hoping that something changes. But what I would predict is, just in terms of the looking at America and the benefit of America overall, the Republicans, they would make a concession and they would become the new Democrats if that's what it took to keep Black people driving them delivery trucks, driving Instacart, whatever Jeff Bezos got to do to keep you working in his basements around America, whatever Elon Musk got to do to keep you tied into whatever businesses and corporations they got going on. It don't matter. They'll switch you over to the Republicans. Next 10 years down the line, all Black people going to be Republican. The conditions not going to change. We're not going for that. We're the alternative. We're building a brand new world, and we're in charge. We're prepared to govern.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, go ahead and flick that hair back, girl. Go ahead and flick that hair back. You dropped so many meaty things. Like, I have so many questions. I'm gonna control myself though. So us knowing this about the Democratic Party, how has that influenced the Uhuru movement and, like, the strategy of the organization and how y'all moving?
Well, we moved, of course, like, in a democratic centralist manner. So there are some real stable issues that need to be addressed. But the way the capitalism works, they always have, like, these little things going on with especially, like, colonized people. You gotta pay your rent, you gotta, you know, food prices, and eggs, can't afford eggs no more egg recipes, alright, no, you know, all these shit, now everybody vegans, you know, can't afford to eat meat these days, can't trust the meat, and all this thing. Oh, look at my flag.
Go ahead.
And so, what we do in the movement is we study, not just what's happening here. It's kind of like the crab in a barrel analogy. You got crabs in a barrel. If you down there in the barrel, it's gonna look crazy. You know, crabs crawling, there's gonna be a claw on your head. So you have to zoom in and you have to look at the big picture. You have to look at everybody. You have to look at, all right, and this is all stuff that Chairman O'Malley did, you know, to lay the framework. And a really good one. This is online. It's called Stolen Black Labor. Y'all can literally Google this. The PDF is available. I printed the whole thing out because, good God. The numbers are in here, especially in terms of reparations, but this literally quantifies the, like, labor in essence. And so what you want to do is you want to look at your conditions, but you want to zoom out. It's like taking your budget, like you're spending all the time. You got to just cut the card. You got to stop. Now there's step back. Look at all of the categories in your budget. How is Haiti doing? It used to be the pearl of the Antilles. Why is Haiti suddenly in this economic situation? Now we got to look at what's going on in Africa, not just the Congo, because, you know, the Congo, they just named it the Congo in 1854. You know, you've got all these things that you have to look at. What happened? And so when you pan out and you analyze big picture so that when you're doing the crabs in a bucket, you're like, wait a minute, I see a tongue. I want to know how the crabs got in the bucket and why are we acting this way? Because crabs typically don't behave like this in its natural environment. Why are they crawling and acting all crazy? Oh, someone's putting us in these conditions. Where do we come from? Maybe we can sort of replicate some of those conditions as we stop this person from scooping us up from where we come from and dumping us into these buckets because they're eating us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We have to stop that. There's a parasitic relationship, and so that is what we do. We have campaign schools. We address the housing question. We have to provide work, but we don't want to provide just work in terms of working for us. We want you to learn how to work for yourself. So we got trade education as well. And with that trade education, if you're a former prisoner, if you were in prison, you get out and you go back to the hood, and we know what conditions might be there in terms of an illegal economy. We are there as an option for that. You could even become a spear salesman. If you can make money selling our burning spears, and let's say you are Haitian, you can actually brush up on your Creole by reading the 4-point platform in Haitian Creole. And so we use these to organize, because one of the things you'll find us Black people, we are in front of the camera looking good. We got the makeup on, we got the hair braiders, we got all of these things, but nobody's involved in political life anymore. And if they are involved, it's mostly on social media. And so what we do is we take the followers from social media, we put you on the ground, and we tend to see how revolutionary you really say you really is. and we're going to help you too, because everybody to us is a revolutionary. I don't care if you're braiding hair. I don't care if you're just doing nails. You paint them nails. You come to African Liberation Day in St. Petersburg, Florida. I got a booth for you, $25. You go ahead and you sell your nails right there. You could do nails on the spot if you wanted to. So we want to just bring out the revolutionary that's already in you.
Oh my gosh. You just sent me bringing up the pamphlet, the newspaper with the Haitian Creole. Like, y'all are organized. And they say African Black people can't get organized. Y'all are organized. Hello. This is what we're talking about. This is exactly what we're talking about. In terms of like the education system, when I first started hearing the word like socialism and communism, like it gave me the eek, right? Because I was uneducated. And I'm gonna be honest about that, because when we think about our education system, they've taught us only they've only taught us, like, you know, the mayonnaise news, you know, the mayonnaise history. They haven't like really shown us our real heroes like Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Omali Yeshitela. They haven't shown us our real heroes. There's something lost when you don't have the knowledge of self. So when they talk about capitalism, and you're right, and then you look at the condition of Haiti, who is a victim of capitalization, right? Because people like to call it the third world country, but they don't ask if Haiti has, they don't even know Haiti has resources, by the way. But they're not asking why Haiti's in the condition. And the first thing that always comes off of someone's mouth is always like, oh, because there's corrupt government. But Haitians, there's no Haitian in the political Haitian government, and people don't know that either. You're welcome. So it's just those things. So you're exactly right in the sense of like, we got to get organized. We have to have education, and we have to teach our community the education that wasn't taught, because the lion's not going to teach. Is it the lion? The hunter is not going to teach the lion how to save themselves. Thank you. Remember, I'm Haitian first, so the analogies are not, okay? Haitian first, guys. Don't come at me for the analogy. But the hunter's not going to teach the lion how to save itself. So it's very important that we as lions educate ourselves, because we are lions, okay? We are fierce. In fact, we're Black Panthers, because we only attack when backed into a corner, okay? That's it.
That's such a powerful statement, and I must say, I salute the Haitian people. I always say this. I might be a little Haitian because my grandmother and and the whole
Yes.
relationship of the Haiti, and New Orleans. There's a connection there because it was both were French colonies.
Yep.
Not the brightest connection, but a connection nonetheless. And what I hope is to draw from that revolutionary fervor of the Haitian Revolution. And I think about the song, the African Nation Fight song, where it says, "Carry the torch of Jean-Jacques Dessalines.
Hey.
We are winning."
Yes. Yes, and that's not far-fetched, because remember, when the Haitian Revolution starts, there are slave traffickers, right, and the traffickers of the enslaved people that do take some of their property to New Orleans. So yes, that was a very close. So it is very likely that you may have some Haitian descent. I'm learning the Haitian history more and more now, and girl, it's a rabbit hole, but it's so good. It's so good. It is so good. So with that being said, I want to make sure we keep time to get all the things. So going back to the capitalism and socialism, what does socialism mean to your organization? Because a lot of, seriously, a lot of people don't know. If y'all know, y'all let me know in the chats, but I didn't know until I was educated. So.
Well, I will say, in terms of, we're talking about modes of production. Some people look at socialism as this idea of we're all happy and free, and that's true, but there's a couple of ways that I look at it personally, and then there's the definition of it. So socialism is essentially when the workers have taken control of the state, and communism is when there is no state at all. State in the form of the police. Now, everybody in the petty bourgeoisie community be getting all scared, and they're like, "Oh, you ain't got a police, you're gonna be killing yourself in the street." But science disproves that. African people have only been communists up until we became the first capital, and then capitalism emerged. So no black person, your great-grandmama was not a capitalist. Couldn't have been. Your great-great-grandmama was not a capitalist. Couldn't have been. Your great-great-great-grandmama and your great-great-great-granddaddy wasn't a capitalist, because they could not have been. And so I'll go and I always carry my little black book. This is quotations from Jainabah I don't know if this is still in print, but there is a page on socialism. And it's very short and brief. That's why I keep it on me. Can I read a couple of lines?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
It just starts off with a definition. Socialism is the emergence and capture of political and economic power by the workers, by the working class. And so, what that means is, like the Haitian Revolution, when they knocked on your door and said, "I need you to get your butt up and go cut this cane sugar or else," that boy said, "Coupete boule." Okay. And then, so the real issue is basically when it's like kind of like Call of Duty, and I hate taking there, but I'm just using an example. Call of Duty. You're shooting, you're playing pew pew, you run over there and you pick up that gun. Now there's been a power change. So basically, this is when black people can no longer be pushed around by the police. You might have seen this, especially in the George Floyd times, where some people were holding down blocks. Settlers can do this in the opposite sense, right? And they can do it when they're settling. And there's a town in South Azania where there ain't no white folks. Why can they do that? Because they protect themselves. Take it how you want to define it, whatever that means to you. And so that's going to happen. They're already pushing us, not just African people, but indigenous people too, into this situation where we're getting just so stressed that we're going to be like, "Look, all right, Jeff Bezos, I ain't driving your I'm not delivering the package today." That's going to happen. And so when we talk about socialism, this is going back to the book, it's more than just a declaration. To be a socialist is to struggle for the empowerment of the African workers because the workers create all of the value. So that's why I'm a socialist. I put my hopes in the working class because this profound contradiction between socialized production and private ownership has to be resolved if there's ever going to be peace on the planet Earth. And I think that, and the last line says, we're socialists and we're Africans and Africa's going to be free. Boom. But that is important because, again, think about how integrated Jeff Bezos is in the lives of our Black community. That's one white man who pays someone you know directly. That's what it means when a large plantation burns down. There are tens of thousands of people working under that person that you don't even know the slave master. Only person got control of your life is an overseer. That's why your life is hell. And so, you know, that's what we're talking about. Jeff Bezos cannot leech off of my sisters anymore.
Hold up. Jeez, like, yes. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
Oh, I think because
Go ahead.
It's important that that someone is bold enough to talk like this, because typically we don't even imagine ourselves controlling our own life. When we talk about free speech, I don't talk about just free speech. I talk about anti-colonial free speech, because, you know, they want free speech to just be saying all kind of crazy stuff. I'm about anti-colonial free speech. I want to be free, and I want to be free to say that I don't want to work for Jeff Bezos. I don't want nothing to do with none of that. Let all my people free. I don't care if we here at home or abroad. IET, you know, all of that. And we want reparations, you know. We could talk about reparations too. We can take it there, you know what I'm saying? So, because, and we don't, and I'm not trying to get into like an intellectual thing. I think a lot of, especially people like to hear that like intellectual challenge and all those things. And if you really want the numbers are here. Like I said, go get Stolen Black Labor, download it, it's free. You're welcome. Chairman is trying to start the revolution. Now go and download it. But the point is that it's not just a question of like, oh, $4 trillion is owed and we're all going to get checks, just like in Dave Chappelle's thing where the reparations episode went on, and we're all going to ruin it because we're all going to eat fried chicken and get back stuff. You know, that's a total petty bourgeoisie statement right there. And it's disrespectful, and we don't tolerate talk like that. And so if you ever hear something, just snap on a girl like that. She'll be a little challenged because she used to getting away with talking about herself and other Black people. But it's not just like a purely intellectual discussion. We have to be bold enough to imagine ourselves running our own affairs in the complete and truest sense of the word, and not with this divisiveness. Yes, if you want to live somewhere else, that is fine. If you want to stay in raggedy ass America, fine. You ain't gotta go to Africa. But I'm leaving. But I'm just saying, Africa has to be free, because guess what? You are rich. We are all the richest people on earth if you want to talk about value. The problem is we're being looted. And I need the Bloods and the Crips to go on over there to Congo and go handle the damn business so I can have my justice.
We let her cook, y'all. We let her cook.
I digress. Not the Bloods, not the Crips. We need them to be disciplined, but I'm just saying.
No, I mean, but that's a valid statement. Like, the enemy isn't our brothers and sisters that look like us, right? Like, or even that's about us. The enemy really is, like you said, and I love that, a crab in the barrel analogy, because I hate when people, when we say that to each other, like, oh, you know how our people are, we're crab. What people? We're crab in the barrel. Because I was in an all mayonnaise town, and believe me, it's not about the color of your skin, right? It's about the character of the person. So let's correct that. So yes, the tongues, like I need us to stop looking at each other as enemy. And you're right in the sense of like, whenever there's certain people that hear about reparations, they're like, and it's like, we're talking about us. Like, I'm talking, this is inclusive to you. But it goes to the conditioning and the education, right? Like, usually in the petty bourgeoisie, they go through this conditioning statement, because you have to, when you're going through an education system, you have to remain vigilant of your cognitive dissonance, right? Like you have to be your critical thinking. They say they're teaching you critical thinking, but you can only have one right answer. How can you be a critical thinker if you only have one right answer? Right? So they're saying that you have to critically think, but they're like, no, we're indoctrinating you on what's the wrong answer, and they tell you the answer and tell you how you should answer that. So come on, people, like get out of the matrix. Like get out of the matrix. It's all about us educating ourselves, and we need to be the ones to liberate ourselves. And I hate that I cannot remember this author. I'm going to put it in the show description when I find it. And if anybody knows this in the chat, please drop it down. But there was an author that essentially said that we as African people, and she had the supporting documents. That's why I need to like get this reference. She had the supporting documents. We as a people have always been successful when we governed ourselves. This illusion that the mayonnaise gang is going to help us, like we're under the mayonnaise gang right now. We have been. And it doesn't matter if it's black skin and a mayonnaise brain, okay? Like it's the same condition. We have to have enough faith in ourselves and want to do for ourselves. Stop regurgitating the words of your oppressors, okay? So this is some like fiery talk, and it shouldn't surprise the audience that there were 3 individuals, Chairman Omali Bashir, that was targeted by the FBI like that. But the court date is done, right? And they're not locked up, so that says something. So why did they? Not one day, one time. Yeah, she does not miss.
It was absolutely historic, and that also speaks to the desperation of just the U.S. government. And this is Joe Biden, who wasted all this time and energy trying to destroy our movement. But he knew he wasn't going to get Chairman convicted for being a Russian agent. He knew it was a crock of stuff. During the trial, I was there, and there was an agent who literally said that they knew that Chairman wasn't a Russian agent, but they put that in there because they want to scare people away and they want to disrupt the movement. Unfortunately, it's not going to work. We're way too many countries, continents, and states. Uhuru Solidarity is infiltrating over 150 cities all over America. And so, you know, the line's been drawn in the sand, and we're seeing more and more where people are starting to see that, you know, the U.S. government is really doing a terrible job at trying to frame people out to being some sort of Russian thing. They tried all hard with the Russian scare to make that a thing again. People are not afraid of Russia anymore. They're not afraid of socialism.
Right.
And so we look at this whole thing, this whole trial, as the trial of the century. And just, I mean, if you look at even the pictures of everyone who is there, these are historic cases. This guy was a former UN's weapons inspector. We had in Gaza, and we had just all kinds of incredible forces, and our lawyers were incredible. To the point where I think one of the lawyers is probably going to end up joining the movement because Chairman is just like touching his life so much. But you know, when you look at Penny Hess, and we're talking about the question of white people, you know, we look at Penny Hess, who's a white woman who says, you know, we are not allies. White solidarity, reparations now is part of a strategy to state that I work under the leadership of the African working class. You have Jesse Neville, a white man who is a white Jewish man, and we think about the issue of Israel and Gaza committing class suicide, dropping parts of his name just to, you know, further unite with humanity, and totally deny and negate and commit class suicide against the white Jewish, you know, people. And think about Gaza and all and the genocide that's going on in Gaza. And so you have him with a quote that says, "I'm honored to be among the Uhuru Three." You know what I mean? Yeah. And so we're talking material solidarity too. This isn't some like feel good, like, oh, we've got, you know, white people working with us. Like, no, they're going and raising material solidarity for the African community so that we can do the work that needs to be done. And so much. Let me tell you something real quick. I gotta side note. The question of white people and the amount of resources. I need every African to understand how many resources in the white community. All right, because I think it says something. The average U.S. household, and this is household, not like medium. Average is 1.1 million per house, and it feels like that when you're talking to anyone in solidarity, because they will have an event. And I remember they had one that's like Make America Pay Reparations when Trump was in office, and they're raising, and then you'll hear, a caller call in with this lily white voice. She's like, I'm paying reparations, and I'm giving my whole stimulus check because that's not my money. Reparations now. And it's like, this is why, first of all, growing up as an Uhuru baby, I was all like happy-go-lucky. I was like a little indigo child, so I'm growing up in what seems like a post-colonial world, where white people pay reparations and black people and indigenous people is all working together. And it's like, what in the world? But this is the kind of world that I want to build for my community. I want people to genuinely know what it's like to have a relationship with somebody who isn't trying to dominate you, or who, you can literally have a conversation with a white woman without her turning and transforming into Karen. Or telling or belittling you, but having political relationships with white people, because typically when it comes to white folks, they're just our boss. You know what I mean? That's the relationship most black people have. And so, it's just such a dynamic thing. And the judge in this case basically stated, like, you're not going to pay a fine. He was like, you're just going to raise it. He's seen all of our fundraising events. He's like, you're not going to spend a day in jail, even though the government was like, we want him to spend, basically they wanted Chairman Omali Yeshitela to die in jail. They were trying to sentence him. The maximum would have been 15 years, and he's already 83.
Right.
So, the trial was absolutely historic. We handled it wonderfully. There is a reenactment, so if anyone is interested, there is a full trial reenactment on YouTube. Go and check it out, because the whole Diddy trial. If you got time for Diddy, you got time for
exactly.
Champion. So go ahead and get your updates if you need to, and go watch that.
Exactly. Jainabah, oh my gosh, I can't believe we only have like 7 minutes left of the show. Don't be mad at us if we go over, but I already see some audience questions. Audience, go ahead and start dropping your questions in the chats for Jainabah. This one is coming from Justin X. Scott 1. He says, okay, so throughout history, reparations have generally been awarded to the victor. For example, in the cases of German reparations in post-apartheid South Africa. In consideration of this history, do you believe it is currently possible for victims of the mafia to receive reparations?
I'm not necessarily sure the victim of the Mafa, if they're going to receive reparations. I mean, in terms of, how reparations is typically handled, it's typically, some sort of governing body that would issue that. I know that, in South Africa, I mean, that we're talking about Azania, if the Mafa are white, then they probably will get double reparations and some land, maybe a couple goats, and some direct liquid cash to get things stabilized for them. But typically what happens when you have a settler population that is in that area, in any area, it is the indigenous people, not just the indigenous people who were on the specific area that they colonized, but it can also be the indigenous people that settlers tend to bring in to that place to be the laborers. So like in South Africa, there's this idea that, a lot of Africans get told you're not real indigenous because you're not from South Africa traditionally. You're not Hosta, or you're not, but it's a totally disingenuous question, because those same Dutch settlers built the railway from Mozambique to bring laborers because they wanted slave labor and they didn't want to do their own work. And so it's a disingenuous question. First of all, you created the conditions that were so terrible in Mozambique and here in apartheid Azania. You traffic us here, and then we're living here now for basically nothing. And so I don't know if the Mafa are indigenous to that area, or if they were like a lot of Africans brought there as labor sources. Happens even with the Indian population. Lots of places, not only in the Caribbean, but in other places in Africa, they've got a huge Indian population because they're brought there as laborers as well. So typically the indigenous people do not get reparations. Typically they get forgotten. I do hope that, they do get that.
Justin, if you have a follow-up to that, please feel free to drop in the chat. And while I wait for that, I have another comment from Siaku Toure, APSP, Uhuru. Last week, House Dems announced a reparations bill. Can you give your observation, this is going to be good, on if this political subterfuge or a genuine call for reparations?
So, the Democrats announcing a reparation bill, this is definitely a political subterfuge, and that this is what we are seeing now more and more is that reparations itself is becoming a household word, and it's not something that happened, it didn't come out of thin air. This is all the work of the party, your party, Siaka's party, the African People's Socialist Party, and I have to salute Comrade Siaka. This is such an excellent comrade. I mean, when I think about the Southern region, I think of the leadership of Comrade Siaka and just how he embodies the party standards to the T. But also, we'll hear more and more from Democrats in terms of calling for reparations, and they may, and they are entertaining it a little bit more, but it's a basically reactionary move. They are informed by whatever the heck we tend to state that we want, and because a lot of, we had the question of the elder African woman who was in the Rosewood massacre directly and went to the White House to say, I was there and I'm demanding reparations for my people, and nothing came of that. So they know that reparations is something that we are talking about. They're studying not only our videos, but Chairman has held in 1982, the African People's Socialist Party held the first World Tribunal on reparations for African people in Brooklyn, New York. And you mentioned Afeni Shakur, she was there, and we got the transcripts. And so I want everybody to go to apspahuru.org and look up the history that we have with reparations, because our view of the reparations issue has always been informed by our understanding of parasitism, or primitive accumulation, which is a technical term, as the essence of capitalism that was born out of our enslavement. And remember, we're talking like, ain't no black person was a capitalist,
right,
until they came up with it and selling your meat.
Right.
You wasn't no capitalist. Your grandma wasn't no capitalist. We have always understood that almost all of the resources from Europe and North America, all this that we see is literally owes its existence. Think about the plantation. And when I say think about the plantation, because I'm getting to the forcible expropriation of value from Africa. That plantation where the slave African people coming from Africa in Louisiana at that particular location, making fast forward to 2025, the day before the fire, there were descendants of Africans who were enslaved who were still working at that plantation in 2025. So when they changed the plantation into a corporation, they didn't even fire the original staff. They still got you doing or whatever they call, remember Dave Chappelle was like master of the custodial arts and half baked. He was like, or a janitor if you want to be a freak about it. But they create these titles, they come up with a check, and now you still on the plant, you on the same plantation that your grandma, your great grandmama, your great great grandmama was on. And so we're talking about, Africans, having the value expropriated, because whatever they were paying them, think about this. You working on the same plantation your great great was working on.
Oh my gosh.
2025, you give it to her. Say you register. You get your check, because you ain't getting paid. This is Louisiana now. You ain't getting paid a lot of money. But you work a reception, so you're getting paid a minimum wage, and you're great, and however many generations been working here for hundreds of generations of checks, you ain't ever gonna touch. So that's how we use the basis. We use history to inform us on how, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans, are going to behave when it comes down to reparations. Yes, they will put it in a bill. Yes, they will. We put it on the ballot first, so we know they ain't gonna put it on the ballot, but they might put it on the bill. But do not expect to, have anything meaningful come from it.
I don't think so.
And I will say this, because if the conditions call for it, they might cut you a check. They already gave you a stimmy, whatever, the stimmy.
The stimmy.
And you see how Africans was acting over the stimmy. So they might, depending on how desperate capitalism is, but that's where Chairman O'Malley solved that question for us. Like I said, we got to zoom out of the bucket so we can see all the crabs and where the environment and all this
Get the
is from.
tongs.
And the real question, they will never be able to pay you back the cost of what it was for your grandmama to endure all of the grape she might have had to endure. Just all the doo-doo stains she had to scrub out by hand. All of the bratty little kids that had to suckle from her breast because her children weren't allowed. Was she even allowed to raise her children? Was she even allowed to, sleep next to her husband and hold him at night? Because one of the things that I would read in a lot of these narratives and documentations from Africans, even down to African men not even as adults ever were having pants. Imagine going to work and you ain't got no drawers on. So I think, we really need to study, just as much as they study who we are, like an anthropologist all up in you, trying to study you. We need to be studying the conditions that we're in. We need to know who we're dealing with and not look at, just because we're born at some place, not really remembering it's only been 600 years. You are a Black African woman. You got all that DNA in you, tens of hundreds, thousands of years of DNA up in you, and you hung up on the U.S. of America like this.
Yeah.
Like Walmart was the highest expression of existence. You know what I'm saying? And don't get us wrong, we gonna make it look good. We make the struggle look so good. We got rich people trying to look like us in the struggle with the long clickety clacks and the payal with the hoop earrings and the bamboo, trying to emulate the conditions, but it's not because of jealousy or anything like that. It's just that when you are viewed as an object, that is what you are viewed as. And I say that because there are a lot of intellectuals and just people in general who think, they're just so jealous of us. They saw us with our big butts and they're like, dominate them. And it's just unscientific, you know what I mean? That is not the case. The case is, the real question is going to be, how tied are you? How closely tied are you to this system? How are you going to react when ain't no more coffee at the Starbucks? You going to trip out like your name is Karen, or are you going to be Carisha? You know what I'm saying? Because we are on the other side of the question. We're trying to stop the theft of those coffee beans. We're trying to stop the theft of the diamonds. We're trying to stop the theft of the people. And we can have all of these wonderful things after the revolution, but it just has to not be a parasitic relationship. And it can happen because it just started 600 years ago. So y'all will get over it. Y'all will figure it out. We got you. Bernard.
The answer to the book that I was speaking to, or the author that I was speaking to, is Lucy Parsons. She was an American communist, anarchist labor organizer, and she has some fire information. Yes, and then Justin X. Scott. I'm going to go into this, but then I have like a few more. It's more than a few more. It's such a lie. Okay, but he says the Maafa Kiswahili term meaning great disaster or terrible occurrence refers to the transatlantic slave trade and the centuries-long history of oppression, enslavement, and genocide of an African. It says PE, but I feel like it cut it off.
Okay, African people.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that.
Well, in that case, yes. We will have reparations in our lifetime. It's just we all have to be prepared to govern, because it's not just getting the reparations. You know, we have to be prepared to govern ourselves. That's where, you know, it's like you make money, now you gotta be able to control like the inflow, and you know, it's moving up from income and expenses and income, and moving up into assets and liabilities. All right, now you got to know how to interact, you know, with other nations, and you know, you'll have more responsibilities, because if we're gonna have reparations, if we're gonna take control of our own resources, trust me, they're gonna go slap crazy over the coffee beans. That's where we really go. When we say no, you can't come get this coffee. That's when all the little hippie white people go turn into the real Republicans. All right, don't mess with that little, you know, free trade, fair trade coffee. And so, you know, it just has to be one of those things where, you know, we're assuming responsibility, not just trying to receive a check.
What does reparation look like to you as a person, or even for the party? Like, what does it look like? Because most people can't conceptualize it.
We can do cash card. No, look, I ain't gonna do it. No, let me stop. But I joke, but I'm being for real.
Yeah.
I'll start with this. We're getting reparations now, and a lot of the work that you see us doing within the African People's Socialist Party. And I really wish like I came prepared, like maybe with a video we could play in the background or something. But if you guys go to Black Power Blueprint, it's on Instagram. I think it's Black_Power_Blueprint. Not like the most. I think maybe somebody took it. Who took Black Power Blueprint anyway? So, and it's probably an account ain't even doing it anyway. So we are receiving reparations. We have white people paying us reparations every day. Like I was saying earlier, you know, they're given, when I was talking about that reparations telethon, I wasn't even playing. Like, I think it was like $70,000 they raised that day. Sometimes you'll have an anonymous donor, and this is all solidarity work. I'm not in solidarity, obviously. The resources that they raise, they are literally telling you what they're raising the money for, and then we do the project. So when people are like, dang, how Dr. Umar talking all this and he ain't got nothing, and we got 2 radio stations, and we got the community garden with the outdoor center and the stage, and we got the new poorhouse with digital sign, and we got the One Africa flea market, and then we got the doula school that we're opening. The work going on in Africa, we literally have an APSP in Azania, Uhuru pies. I remember seeing Steph Curry and the Cliff, all these companies making contributions and paying reparations so that we can continue to fund and do the work, this type of work that actually needs to get done. People like you support this, you know. We have ad spaces that a lot of African businesses, they will put, you know, I got a business, you know, maybe we can get your ad in here, you know what I mean? And then you can have a picture in here, quarter ad, half page. Maybe get a whole thing and you're on the whole back of the you know, paper, just depending on, you know, this is how we build. So we are getting reparations now. This is what reparations looks like. This ain't no BLM spend millions of dollars so I can have me a mansion type thing. That is not what we're trying to do. This is not how can I get richer. I struggle against some of the petty bourgeoisie aspirations that I do have. Some of them I might lean into. It's a struggle, okay, y'all. I digress. My point being reparations now, and as we get more and more reparations, everybody will have more work that's getting done. We're going to have all of this until eventually, especially in South Africa, when they know that they have the support of us over there, you know, we're going back and forth, and we're actually communicating and maybe even visiting. By the way, we do have a little party baby because one of our South African and Alabama comrades hooked up, did a little thing, got a little cutie pie. I digress. If you're looking for love, revolutionary love, I digress.
I love love.
But I'm just saying that this is what it looks like. And so we are building with the reparations, the little reparations we get now, and we're preparing to govern, because there is going to be so many, and it's going to be a start from solidarity, because that's the most genuine form of reparations. We don't say donations. We don't say charity. When you're listening to us and we're talking about white people, they are going to say reparations now. They're going to say, I'm paying reparations. They're not going to say, I'm going to make a donation to the African. No, they're paying reparations. And that's a genuine stance. We ain't trying to trick no white people. We don't need you to just give us no money. We want you to take a real stance, a material stance with the African community. Don't go over there and give you 6-5 cents a day for the poor African child, and then the cameraman over there gonna drive back to South Africa in an all-white town, you know, and make $1 million off of that commercial. We're not talking about that type of white people getting involved in African affairs and black people's affairs. We're talking about genuine, really at this point, all we need is reparations. You stay over there, and we'll handle it from here, all right? And don't touch my hand with you.
Yes.
And so, you know, just, you know, and again, I just when I say these things, because Africans as a whole, we have a sentiment, we tired. We tired right now. But we also recognize that white people want to be a part of humanity as well. And like I was saying, I just grew up in that arena, and they have a home, and their political home is with the African People's Socialist Party. So we get reparations now. We're going to get more reparations in the future, but we don't see it as like some government handout or anything like that. We want everything. We want the Diamond days up in Europe. We want, you know, the crown jewels. They're going to have to open a vault. Everything they took from Haiti, open a vault.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I was like, yes, we want reparations. We want it now. Okay. We want it now. So then, okay, so I want to pull it back, because you said solidarity, and then you said, I'm not part of solidarity. So for those who don't know, the solidarity campaign is the white faction of the Uhuru movement. And what that means is it's white people talking to white people about reparations, which I love, because I'm always like, don't talk to us about how to fix a problem we didn't create. Talk to your folks and them. And that's exactly what they embody. That's exactly what they exemplify. So let me see if I got this right. So for the USM, it's the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. And then the APSC is the African People's Solidarity Committee. I hope I get them on the show one of these days, because I want to ask them from like their perspective for sure. So what I will ask you though is like, how did the conversation between these movements, like, how did that like even come about when talking to reparations? Because you can't even get some black folks to talk about reparations, let alone put, y'all found 2 individuals rallying for reparations for African, like, where they do that at? Like, seriously.
It's way more than 2. Okay, first of all, it's all due to the chairman. One of the things that you find when African people are addressing like the question of white people, and where do they fit in, and blah, 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 it can get weird. Chairman keeps it real political. This ain't no friendship, you know, this is where we stand. That's why we say it's not about tricking nobody, it's not about nothing. Chairman made the call, but he does not approach the question of white people as if they're reptiles, as if they're mutant humans, unscientifically, as if they're not humans. He does not approach it that way, and that, I believe, is a dignified way to approach it, and it's a scientific way. And I think that that's what captures people, because white people know what they did, you know what I'm saying? And so a lot of Africans, you know, through whatever, they may have a different understanding of maybe what happened. Some Africans think it was a magical boat ride. They not even Africans. It was just like poof, they landed and then they became Negroes or whatever, they were called in whatever place they were. And so, I think that genuine stance is what allows for white people to say, okay, I know I don't unite with colonialism. They're talking about anti-colonialism. I know that reparations, I believe in paying reparations. This organization is saying that I can pay reparations here. I want to see where the work is going. I see all of the work that's being done here, and I want to be a part of this. And so, but it also keeps it very genuine because you do not have, and they're not a faction necessarily. They're a separate organization. The African People's Solidarity Committee does work under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. They are a strategic arm of the African People's Socialist Party. Basically, they are black power and white face, y'all. So as you know, they be sending them agents up in the, we know the upper Ruckuses. We know all the white power and black faces. They on the TV shows, but now we got black power and white face, and they take it to the white community because we all to try to talk to the people. We know how, we know better. We done all learn better. And I don't care how many movies say dear white people, they ain't never gonna get it. So just stop it. Just let them talk to them. That's why we got it. And on top of that, they really ain't got too much to talk about besides pay reparations. And when I tell you that they are genuinely that's their stance, and so I could rock with that, and I think, like I said, psychologically, think about the psychological effects and how healthy it is for an African person to have a relationship with a white person that isn't just where sometimes white people can talk down to you in a demeaning way, or they're not disciplined, or just all kinds of wild things can happen. It's so interesting when I see an average everyday African come across a solidarity member. They're they almost don't trust them. They're I'm just to reparations. I don't believe in that. So, but then you find the others who hold on, they might be let me just stick around and see what's going on. And then when they realize, they're okay, I can work with this because all the black people seem cool, and then they're okay, they believe in that. They're when you, as an African, when you watch, you're okay, these white people are not flinching when chairman says this or chairman says that, and he's not holding his tongue. They're actually nodding their heads, and and so it's healthy for African people to experience that as well.
Girl, I know. As you're saying that, I was sitting there, you guys already know I went. So I was sitting there and Chairman said something, and I'm and I'm looking around because this is things that when you have your white friends in the room and they say something outlandish and nobody corrects them. It was the reverse of that, but it was because it was the truth. It's surreal, and I have to say, I said it at the beginning of this interview. There's nothing like going to the Uhuru and seeing. First of all, the big red, black, and green flag it's the biggest flag. I've seen a Trump flag that big, I've seen an American flag that big, but I have never seen a Pan-African flag that big. And the way that I felt euphoria as walking up to the Uhuru House, it can't be recreated. And to be in a space, and I'll tell people over and over, I got in the car with two strangers and ended up at the Uhuru House, and I had trauma from North Carolina, the mayonnaise part of North Carolina. So this was a safe place, even with the presence of white people. I had never felt so safe. It's a beautiful experience. Even as I'm talking about it now, the feelings going through my body. That's how beautiful it is. You guys have to witness it in person for yourself. So unfortunately, I swear, Jainabah, I'm gonna have you back on here because I have so many questions. but I want to get to the part of where we can support you all, the Uhuru movement, and because she is, as I said before, she is the Southern Regional Representative. Congratulations, her newly appointed role, well deserved. we heard what's going on in St. Louis, so what are you trying to do here, sister? Like, how can we support you in St. Pete? Like, how? Tell us.
First of all, if you want to support me in St. Pete, come to ALD right here. This Saturday, we're going to have African Liberation Day. African Liberation Day is our holiday. This wasn't given to us by Target in Juneteenth or whatever they got going on.
Yeah.
It's ours.
Yeah.
And I think that it's such a good holiday because unlike Juneteenth, which kind of has this finality like, oh, they came, they set us free, it's over.
Yeah.
African Liberation Day is actually practicing celebrating the revolution. Like every year we celebrate the people who the actual U.S. government killed to keep us driving for damn Jeff Bezos.
Right.
And so, and I say Jeff Bezos because like he's in control of like the outdoor prison warehouse complex,
Oh, yeah.
but the indoor, the prison complex,
Yes.
they don't drive, around anywhere, but they are just as under the thumb as we are out here in Jeff Bezos' open air prisons. And so I say that to say, come to African Liberation Day. First thing I want you to do is I want you to just get involved and come and get the feeling that Molina was just talking about, seeing the red, black, and green flag. Come and participate in our events. What I want is for the southern region to grow overall. I want it to go beyond St. Petersburg. We have forces who are absolutely brilliant, and I know that like we have forces in Orlando and in Charlotte, and so what we're calling on people to do and what we want to train people on doing outside of just, I could totally see you going to electoral school.
Oh, I love
this last year's one was super, super good. I hope that we can keep a continuation of it going. But that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to see, like, okay, when we're building a world outside of CNN, like we could see this podcast being, like investing in it as a news source. You know what I mean? And we want to give people who already have a job, the same job, but for their own people.
Yes,
and so that is that's what's gonna piss off Jeff Bezos, and that's my goal. You know what I'm saying? That's our
Me
goal.
too.
Like, we want to hit him where it hurts, and that means that we have to negate everything that they have going on. And so, if you're in St. Louis, I want you to definitely go to the Aquaba Hall in St. Louis. Go and check out all of the work. Ask for a tour. Call ahead. We're very well organized. What I want the South to be feared. I want them to not feel like, oh, those black people in the South, they're going to join the Democrats or Republicans, whatever we tell them to join. I want them to be like, damn, I don't know what they're going to do. We tried to imprison their leader, and now, like, hundreds of people are, like, submitting applications to join the African People's Socialist Party, and they just built the child care center in the bank. And I grew up in this situation where, daycare is a really high cost for a lot of African women. And so, we're rebuilding our families through negating colonialism. We are, basically, I want us to see ourselves as leaders. And I think that the African People's Socialist Party, and if you're not ready for the African People's Socialist Party, the Uhuru movement, we've got join and volunteer at the radio station. Whatever skills you have, we have a home for that, and we want to expand on that. That's what I want to do. Yeah.
You said you had all that fire, and then you said Uhuru. Okay, Jainabah.
Well, because I can't help to be in my true self.
Yes.
This is why, and it's so much. When you go to work, you can't be your true self. I go to work and I have to walk around. Yeah, I can't even. I really have to be so headstrong because they will try to run all over me. And
Yes, they will.
And so now I can finally be my feminine self with you.
Yes. Yeah. Believe me. I came from corporate too, so I get it, sis. I get it. Okay, so y'all heard how y'all can support her. African Liberation Day is coming up this Saturday at St. Pete. Okay, it's Orlandoans. It's 2 hours. Okay, it's not even that far. We can make it. It's a beautiful drive. You get to see bodies of water that you don't have to get in. It's amazing. And then that flag, it's worth it. The ambience is worth it. The people, the food, the entertainment, it's worth it. Take it from me, it is worth it. You know, we try to be on this podcast. We don't just want to talk about the revolution. We want to be a part of the revolution. We don't just want to talk about, we don't want to complain about our circumstances. We want to give everyone an option to find something that suits them. And I'm telling you, this thing is beautiful. It really, really is. For those who can't make it, like say they're in, I don't know, Washington or something, could they come in virtually to view this event, or how is that?
I believe that there will be a virtual showing. If you go to apspuhuru.org, you can learn more about that, or you can also search African Liberation Day by going to alduhuru.org, and you'll be able to learn more about that.
Thank you so much. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share, like, and comment. If you have anything for Jainabah, please drop it in the comments and we'll make sure that she gets anything. Any questions that you didn't get to ask and it comes up later, please ask in the comments. We will make sure that it gets to her. If you want to support the work that we do, we have Cashapp. It's Black without the K podcast. Okay? Anything you want to catch this episode and you want to see what we're about, what we do, and what we've done in the past, any articles that we've ever highlighted is on. You can go to www.blactrospective.com. And I think we lost Me Speak, so I was really trying to get her back on. So I'm just going to close this out and just say thank you for having the hard conversation with us, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And remember, love, peace, and support Black businesses. We love you. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you, Jainabah. See you, everyone.
Should I say,
okay, Nawe, yeah. You may just be Haitian. You just may be Haitian because you just know a lot. See you, Jainabah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Uhuru.
Black.